Hello again, YouTube and all of my bass followers and friends and whoever else may be watching. This video will be addressing the higher part of your subharmonic range. A lot of you have suggested I do a video on this because, well, I know why, because I had a lot of trouble with this higher part of my range when I was learning this technique as well. So I totally understand what problems you guys are having. Just getting the notes in the higher part of this range is the first hurdle you have to climb over. There are really two major hurdles in this, well, three, I guess. The first one is actually getting into the higher part of your range. The second one is making these notes sound decent. And the third one is being able to transition between the higher part and the lower parts of your subharmonic range. And so this will at least be a three-part series within my How to Sing Lower series. So this will be part one of at least three parts. This one will be addressing the beginners who can't get the higher part of their range yet and they need to figure out how to get into the higher notes. So what am I talking about with the higher parts of my range? So in modal voice, you have your chest voice and your head voice. They're technically in the same vocal register, but they use slightly different muscle control because they resonate in different parts. Your head voice obviously in your head more so, and your chest voice more in your throat and chest. The same can be said for the subharmonic range. I have three parts basically in my subharmonic range. I have the lowest portion, which bottoms out at about an E flat 1 and it goes up to an F sharp 1 or so. And that is not as loud and resonant on most days, on almost every day, as the other parts of my range. I have it, it's cool. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get more volume and resonance out of it, but it's not super useful yet for me anyways. The next part of my range I will probably refer multiple times in the series to as the wheelhouse of my range. Is the middle portion. It sounds more like full voice than any of the other parts of my subharmonic range. That stretches from about a G1 to a B flat 1. And those notes are easy. I can actually push them to get more volume out of them. Yeah, so those notes are awesome. The higher part of my range, this is the tough part. B1 to, well, anything above B1. I can sing subharmonic up to about the third octave right now, which is pointless really. Anything above about an E2 sounds really nasty. So for all intents and purposes of this video and a scale that I'll show you guys, I'm going to say the higher part of the range is B1 to E2 for this video. So that's what we're going to work on here. This video is for those of you that really can't get these notes yet and you just can't get them. So how do you get into these notes and how do you just find them and be able to control them so that you can work on other things with these notes? The first step is finding them. How did we find the first note that we started on in the first video, B flat 1 or whatever it was? We use this thing called an octave drop, and that is to find your first subharmonic in the subharmonic series. So we are going to use that for these higher notes as well, because that's what I use for these higher notes. I wasn't really able to climb up to them from the lower or the middle part of my register. I had to use the octave drop to find them because what I was finding when I was practicing is I really couldn't go above a B flat 1. I was like, shoot, I need to figure out how to get above this because I'm sure it's possible. So I had to use the octave drop, revert back to the octave drop. I was past that point, and find the B1 and C1, C2 and C sharp 2 and all those notes above there using the octave drop. And then I had to stabilize those notes and get the muscles stronger by just practicing the octave drop until I could just pop into those notes. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you guys now. So we're going to start with a B1. So I'll use the octave drop to get to the B1. I will imitate the sound that you guys will probably be making when you first start this. One more tip before we get started on this. The lower part of my range and the wheelhouse of the range, of my subharmonic range, it has a very open throat placement, or throat feeling, and a deeper placement, and it's just a full, awesome sound when you get it going well. The higher part of my subharmonic register, the placement is higher, and when I first started out, I actually had to tip my chin up a bit to find it, and my throat was more closed off, which wasn't so great because it kills the sound quality, but that's just how I had to find the notes to get to them, and then I could work on sound quality later. So I will imitate now what it was like when I finally figured out how to get into the higher notes of my range. Okay, so that sounds disgusting. So I actually had to tip my chin up like that, and it closes off your throat a bit, and it gives this tighter sound, but I think it just aids to the control of the buzzing in your throat, and it just helps out with control there when you're first trying to stabilize those pitches. So start at B1. I wanted to get into a B minor scale, so I just tried to learn the notes of that. So B minor, C sharp, D, E, D, C sharp, B, and I did those until I could get those in a scale. So, okay, there's a B, C sharp, okay, and you'll find that exactly what happened there. As you go back down, it gets fairly hard to actually get to the notes again. It's just a weird change in placement that you have to figure out how to deal with. So practice that. Try to just get those notes in that B minor scale, or whatever scale you want to use there, up to an E2, because that's kind of the transition point that you guys really need. For a lot of you that are bass baritones that really can't like blare out D2s and C2s like me, that's a really useful area that you need to work on. So get those notes so that you can hit them. You don't need to necessarily be able to travel between the notes, just be able to get a B1, be able to get a C2, C sharp 2, all those notes in between there. And what you do from there is you just keep practicing that scale over and over. And you need to be able to get to the point where you can just pop down to the register instead of using the octave drop. So okay, and that is still with that kind of nasty closed throat sound. It still sounds kind of fake compared to full chest voice. But trust me, the next few parts of this video series will explain how to get rid of that nasty sound and how to get a more resonant sound. So that is what you need to work on for now. That took me a while to get down that scale, and now I can kind of just fly through it like it's nothing, and it definitely wasn't nothing when I first started. So practice getting B1 and then note above that, above that, above that, just getting those notes isolated so that you can get the muscles controlled for that area of your range, and we'll go from there. So until then, take care.